Hello, and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I remember how you made me crazy. I remember how I made you scream.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which released in 1978, based on the novel by Jack Finney, written by W.D. Richter, and directed by Philip Kaufman. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a group of people who are living in San Francisco. We follow Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland as they start to notice how their loved ones around them are starting to lose major personality traits and emotions. As the two of them start to investigate what's going on, they realize they might be running out of time until they have to escape.
Help! Help! They're coming! They're coming! Listen to me! Listen! Help me! You're next, please! Please! You're next! We're in danger! Please, listen to me!
So this is a remake of the original 1956 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, directed by Don Siegel. Now, Philip Kaufman didn't set out necessarily to do a remake, but a reimagining, and he really wanted to get into the source material. He didn't see it as a remake of the film, but more as a delving more into what the novel had to offer.
Yeah.
And he wanted to explore some of the themes in there that maybe the other film didn't necessarily cover.
Yeah.
And that namely was this circle of characters, this band of friends, and the humanity that they have and the love for each other, and how the alien kind of strips that away,
Yeah.
and that being the threat that these aliens pose.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of started with the series backwards. I saw the 1993 Army Base movie
The Abel
first.
Ferrara version.
Yeah, you know, I saw that one first, and that got me kind of interested to go back and see what all the fuss was with the originals. And I saw this one maybe like mid-teens, before my 20s, and the black and white one. And the black and white version is like very 1950s-esque, you know. It's got it's major, like, who goes there, the, like, you know, the invasion of these podlight people, and kind of America kind of saving the day at the end.
Well, it was also, I mean, it's an absolute classic.
Yeah,
And it is
yeah.
still also a very, very good film. But it's one of those films that has that underpinning America fear of communism.
Yes,
That kind
totally.
of like the subtext. Even though it's not intended in the film, it's become almost like a part of it.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely a classic. And this, even though I would say this is a superior remake.
Oh, definitely,
And
definitely.
it definitely doesn't take anything away from that original one. But I would say there's two other Invasion Snatcher films, like the one you mentioned. And
Yeah.
that Abel Ferrara one just for me felt like a sci-fi made-for-TV movie.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so reduced in scale and scope.
It's got no budget, and obviously, if you know the story, what you're watching, you know what's going to happen. But
And then the Daniel Craig one in 2007. Like,
yeah.
at least they tried to do something a little bit different, but again, it was so mediocre. I think most people have forgotten it even actually came out.
But this one, the 1978 version, is just so brilliant, especially with this whole intro where we're watching the spores kind of fly through space.
It's a great effect. We
Yeah.
see that alien homeworld, this
Yes.
barren, empty wasteland, which I guess is a nice way to see that these aliens have destroyed this planet, whether it's their home planet, we guess not.
Yeah.
Float across the solar winds to our planet, where they descend.
And we see them land on those plants, you know, become part of the plants. And then when we see, obviously, Elizabeth Driscoll, Brooke Adams' character, kind of walk up and pick up the little plant and start to smell it, we see this lady kind of ushering children into the bushes, like, take the plant, take it home, take it to your parents.
All the while, you've got Robert Duvall in a priest outfit. I mean, whether Robert Duvall is the priest or the priest. Anyway, on this swing surrounded by children. You're just like, that's not creepy at all. And the director even said that is the first pod person in existence on the planet. And so we know he's there's something odd about seeing a priest on the swing in the park.
Yeah.
But even the way Robert Duvall plays this one tiny little role is enough to go, that's not quite right.
Yeah.
And so it begins.
And so Elizabeth takes the plant home, and, you know, she realizes that it's a rare plant.
And she puts it in a glass jar, doesn't she? Or puts it in a glass and puts it next to her husband overnight.
And just lays it there. And then the next morning when she wakes up, like, he's he's already up. He's already dressed smartly. He's already kind of getting rid of some kind of weird dust pile on the floor and then taking it out to the garbage man and the trash. And the garbage men have this garbage truck full of rubbish. Well, I want to say
like coughed up fur balls.
Yeah, I want to say rubbish, but I can't lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. I was obviously looking into the notes for the movie, and they're just like, look, you know, there's a heavy emphasis on the garbage trucks picking up.
Somebody's emptied a 2-ton vacuum cleaner into the back of it.
Yeah, and that's when you start to realize, like, oh my god, they're
already here.
They're already here. They're already practically everywhere. But when we're also introduced to Donald Sutherland's character, very funny right off the bat, with him walking into the restaurant, you know, and he's looking around at everything like he's a you know, health and safety representative, and he's just, what is this?
What ingredients are in this dish?
Yeah.
Is rat droppings a part of that dish makeup?
It's
no.
a caper. It's rat droppings. It's a caper.
Well, you won't mind eating it then. Oh, okay, it must be rat droppings. Okay.
So
It immediately sets up this character. Now, in the original script, he was going to be a musician.
Right.
But I guess they decided to want to change things up a little bit and giving him this sort of part scientist kind of background.
Yeah.
It kind of lends his character more urgency when he realizes, you know, there might be an alien invasion going on.
But that's the thing. Like, it's very... Like, I found this completely strange with how natural these characters are. Like, none of them had any real special skills, like they were gonna, like, you know, save the world. Like we said, with Donald Sutherland's character, like, he's just making sure, like, the restaurants are obviously making sure that all their food is safe. And we just have this kind of weird natural conversation between him and Brooke Adams' character, Elizabeth Driscoll, about how she's noticed that her boyfriend's attitudes are completely changed overnight. So it felt weirdly natural, like we were part of this friendship and we're just listening in, but we know what's happening, what's changing.
Well, yeah, he's a little bit despondent at first. He's like, so really he's not the person that he went to bed with the night before, he's somebody different. But then later on, he goes, I think, to the dry cleaners.
Yeah.
And the guy's just like, my wife, you're a doctor, right? You need to check my wife. That's not my wife anymore.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with her. And he's just like, okay, well, that's the second time today.
Yeah.
There's something's not quite right. But then there's other scenes, like we said, the escalation in the background where we're following Elizabeth as she's just walking. And out of nowhere, there's a guy running in the background, runs across the frame, then runs off. You're like, what's that about? Don't know.
No, nothing said. Like, she even says at one point she noticed just a change in the city. Like, she was walking along and just felt like everything was unsettling. And through the camera work as well, I'm getting that.
Yeah, like the pan across the bus with everybody looking out the window. It's like, are they all body snatched? Or is it just unsettling anyway?
Yeah, like just taking really natural things in everyday life and putting it on camera, but then giving it this background of this alien invasion to the point where she returns back to Donald Sutherland's character and she's just like, look, I followed Jeffrey. I'm freaking out. He was just meeting up with strangers. They're carrying these strange objects. And so then you're seeing what she's seeing. And say, look, there's something up. And he kind of fobs off like, yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I'll take you to my friend Leonard Nimoy, you know, and he'll talk you through. He's a psychologist. Now, I don't know if, like, maybe I'd seen it previously and I'd forgotten before I'd watched the movie again, but like I've always seen Leonard Nimoy in this as evil, like right off the bat. I don't know what it is, like if he's not wearing pointy ears, maybe it's because I saw him Mission Impossible and he was evil in that, but like if he's not Spock, I cannot trust him.
Fair. I mean, we know that the pod people have no emotions and they're almost like automatons. They're just doing their work. But when we first meet Leonard Nimoy in this, he's playing Dr. David Kibner, and he writes self-help books. So he's all about getting people to look inward and make their lives better. And he's convincing this other lady when we first meet him that she's hysterical. Of course, your husband's still the same person he was yesterday, and of course he's not been replaced by a doppelganger. And so, as an audience, we of course know he's wrong. But he definitely still seems to have friendships and an emotional bond with Matthew, Donald Sutherland's character. So I wouldn't say he's definitely been taken at this point, but he definitely does get taken off screen because there is a scene later on where we see him get into a car with people we know are pod people.
Yeah.
But then again, there's sequences earlier in the film where his mannerisms, where it's questionable. You're like, is he the thing or not the thing? Especially when he meets up with the Belichics.
Yes. Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright. I mean, it's like at this party sequence. I mean, Jeff Goldblum is so young and so just full of life. You can just see he was amazing even back then, you know, just trying to talk to people. And you have that moment where Leonard Nimoy kind of lashes out at him while he's trying to talk to Elizabeth's character. And he's talking about emotion. And I totally get the fact of, like, because I even question it, like, oh no, he can't be like a pod person because he's lashing out there. But I'm like, these pod people could have been here for a while. They could be slowly adapting. Emotions might be just something that they need to create. They don't know how to make emotions yet. So he might be smarter.
For me, you're adding stuff that's not in the film.
Maybe I am. Like I said, I just don't trust him. But then when you come across the Belichics, you know, and Veronica Cartwright is just so brilliant. To think like a year after this, she'll be an alien.
Right.
You know,
two
it's
back-to-back successes.
Two back-to-back successes of sci-fi. You know, I know she went on to do stuff in X-Files as well. Like this actress, just absolutely amazing. But she's running the kind of steam bath, the mud baths. And Jeff Goldblum comes back and explains about how the party was a bit shit. You know, he got lashed at by fucking Spock. And she has this weird, strange encounter with one of their customers. And then when he's gone, you come across like the formation of a pod person. Like Jeff Goldblum had fallen asleep in another room, and now this pod is becoming him.
Oh, Jack, you're gonna suffocate.
Now, how far do these things have to be? Like, they don't seem to have to be in direct contact. They just have to be in kind of a mile radius, like 50 meters?
They definitely need to be in physical contact with you. They need to touch you in order to start the...
Well, you want to say that, but there's a sequence later on where there's a bunch of pod people in the gardens, and Elizabeth is in like a completely different room.
Well, they'd already kind of sampled her, I guess. They already knew her DNA and were just recreating it.
See,
again.
Now you're just adding things on top of the story that I don't think's in the film.
There was a pod there that was birthing her, so... And we know it was attempting it earlier.
But then, like I said, it's like how much contact do these things need to be? Because when Jeff Goldblum kind of is freaked out by Veronica Cartwright screaming, they come across the body, and obviously she's trying to contact, you know, Matthew and trying to get him to come and look at it, and so he decides he wants to bring Leonard Nimoy to come and have a look at it as well. But at this point, we don't know that they just need to go to sleep. As soon as these people go to sleep, it's like a psychic connection thing. As soon as they go to sleep, the pod starts to kind of extract.
Yeah, but it also means you kind of have to go to sleep next to a pod, or go to sleep and have a pod person put the pod next to you. You know,
well, yeah.
I don't see these pods getting on legs and walking their way to where you're sleeping.
Well, so... I don't know. This thing that we see on the bed, it's not a pod, is it? It's a man.
Well, I mean, it's
got arms and legs. It's just got no fingers.
It just hasn't finished. It's just generating itself yet.
And Jeff Goldblum goes and sleeps in a completely different bed, and this thing wakes up. You know, so as soon as he closes his eyes, this thing wakes up. As soon as Jeff Goldblum wakes up, this thing goes back to sleep. And I'm like, how much distance? Well, how do these things work? You know, like, I get the idea of a plant, you know, absorbing these things, but they don't seem to have to fully need physical contact to start to make them.
Oh, I think they absolutely need the physical contact to start. I think they do. Well, it's just like that scene in the bathhouse with Jeff Goldblum when he's by his pod man person.
Yeah.
The white hairs on it almost like magnetized to him, like they need that contact in order to keep it going.
I totally agree with that. That's how I imagine these things. They need physical contact, but then sometimes you see in certain sequences the pods are like in completely different vicinity, and it appears to be like a weird psychic connection that, you know, once the husk is gone, the pod person then deals with it, cleans it up, and off they go. But they contact Dr. Kidner to come and have a look, Leonard Nimoy, and he kind of walks in and the body's gone.
Well, that's a coincidence, isn't it?
That's how I'm like,
Yeah, and we
Really?
can already hear the garbage truck in the back,
Yeah,
ready
well,
to scoop up the remains.
well, that's it. Did they get rid of the body? Did they get rid of these things that aren't fully constructed and they just get another pod
I'd imagine
out?
so, yeah, to cover
You
it
know?
up. Yeah.
You know, can you make more? Can you make more than one person through a couple of pods?
No, because the original person disintegrates afterwards. It's like it absorbs all the
Well, that's
nutrients
it.
out of them to create the new version.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's how I also feel. It's like it absorbs everything other than the
Because
emotions.
it also
that
takes
they've-
their memories and everything else.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So then Elizabeth is escorted home by the police and her husband, you know, because like she knows there's something. We know, everybody fucking knows that there's something wrong with the husband and that they are literally just going to turn him into a pod person. But it's you know, the authority, they control all of this stuff now, and they're just like, no, she has to go home. And it's then down to Matthew to obviously realize that he has to obviously rescue her. So he rushes all the way back and breaks in. And it's kind of weird as well, like her husband is trying to do normal things like listen to the TV with his headphones on.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, if you ever see anybody watching this old TV station, you think there's definitely something wrong. But he's watching an old weather station,
Yeah.
which is just filming all of these readouts and dials.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just like, yeah, clearly an alien. Like, no human would clearly watch this channel for entertainment. But it's one of my favorite shots in the entire film, though, where he hides in the closet.
Yes.
and you just get that beam of light as he steps into it.
Yeah, I love the fact that the husband came into angle with the mirror.
Yes.
And the mirror sphere, and it cuts back to the cupboard shot. I was like, oh man, this brilliant.
Yeah.
Such good camera work.
Oh, there's some really great cinematography. There's a sequence earlier where there's like 6 of them in a room, all conversing about what to do. It's the scene afterwards.
Yeah.
When the police turn up and they're just like, where's my wife? Oh, she's been taken away. Actually, I don't want to press charges. Everything's fine. The police officer's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Really? But it's the way that they said when they were making the film that this scene could have taken days and days to shoot it all. But they decided they were going to do it like that one day and just free handheld camera work.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the camera work is so well done. The way that it fluidly moves and it captures and it pans and zooms with the action as the beats of the conversation are going.
Yeah.
That it's seamless. You almost don't notice how good this cinematography is.
Yeah.
Now, there is one scene in the film as well that I'm glad it's there. And
Yeah.
it has brought up some questions as to whether is this actually a sequel or is it a reimagining?
I like to think it's a continuation.
Yeah,
Continuation.
now it's the fact that they've recast Kevin McCarthy.
Yes.
Who played Matthew Burnell in the original movie.
Yes.
And that film, in the end, has him running, screaming that they're here.
Well,
you're next.
It has that, but it also has like typical 1950s fashion of the American government finding out about it and kind of mobilizing, you know,
To
to
shut
stop
it down,
them.
yeah.
You know, which is kind of the opposite to what we get in this film. So it's like they cut off that bit and have him doing his fearful
So for
chant.
22 years, he's been running around telling everyone that they're here.
That they're here, and they've been slowly taking over smaller, more and more towns of America to the point where, like, he sees them, he scares the guys. It's a great jump scare, and then he runs around the corner. And he's hit by a car.
Well, we don't actually see. I mean, we hear a car screech and there's a thud, but yeah, so it's kind of implied.
Kind of implied.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that as they drive past, as Matthew and Elizabeth come past, they look around the corner. Nobody's scared. Nobody's freaking out. They're kind of just gathering around. It's like it was possibly intentional.
Yeah.
You know, because
yeah.
he was emotionally...
Of course, or a pod person just took him out for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Like,
yeah.
you've been causing trouble for 22 years. God damn it. We knew we should have gotten you earlier.
Well,
but no, I'm just going to close that one off by saying he's not actually credited with the same name as he was
No,
in the
no.
original.
Yeah.
He's credited as the running man in this. So, fair enough. But it was just a nice sequence
Yeah.
to have him really do that moment for this film.
Like I said, I see it as the continuation, and it's slowly getting worse and worse with the movie because like we've had the people at the dry cleaners, like the man's just like, it's okay now, it's okay, and so Matthew's just like, oh, you're fine now, are you? And you're like, and the audience are like, no, he's not fine, get out of there. But then when you're getting the grouping together, you know, of the Bellicacs, you know, Elizabeth and Matt, you know, heading. They go to Leonard Nimoy's house to seek help. because obviously they seriously need him to answer the questions of why they are feeling like this. And like he leaves them alone, doesn't he? And you know, a lot of them haven't slept in days, so they start to kind of just fall asleep. And I totally, like I said, I totally get what you're saying about the things needing physical contact. But well, I suppose if they've already had physical contact and then you just put another pod away from them, because like Matthew falls asleep in the garden and we see the white hairs kind of lurch up and latch onto his hand, and so obviously his pod starts to construct his version. But then obviously Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright, they're in the front room of the house, and he starts to fall under the spell as well with the pod. Elizabeth's up in bed as well, and her pod starts to take her, and it's Veronica Cartwright who kind of freaks out and wakes Matthew up.
Matthew! 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 Matthew, they're growing! They're all around!
And we see all the bodies, they're unfinished, they're starting to, start to cry because they're obviously dying. I completely forgot the gore effect of him killing one.
Oh yeah, I mean the film was X-rated for a reason.
Like one gore shot.
Yeah,
though.
no, I mean it's not particularly gory, but it is because there's been none up until this point.
Yeah,
it kind of does catch you off guard.
Yeah,
as he crushes the skull of this pod person. I also think it's interesting that I don't think in any of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers movies they call them pod people.
No, we just made it up because
that's what they are. Yeah,
they come out of pods. But this is when we really start to see how there's nobody left. Like they start to make the cry, they start to make the run. We have our four heroes, and they have to run. They have to run for their lives.
Well, yeah, and they end up back at the bathhouse.
Yeah, they start to run away from the mob, but Jeff Goldblum decides that he wants to distract them to give the guys a chance to escape. But when he runs away, Veronica Cartwright follows after him, and it's now just left down to Matthew and Elizabeth be on their own.
And they've had an interesting relationship throughout the film, because obviously she was married to begin with, but she did spend a lot of time with Donald Sutherland's character. And they, as the events have unfolded, the two of them have gotten closer and closer together. Where when they do end up getting captured by Leonard Nimoy, and after both of them have also taken some speed because they want to make sure they don't go to sleep.
That's it. They head their way back to the lab, don't they?
That's right.
At first, they try to get into a taxi to take them to the airport.
To bring up, it's a cameo appearance there. That's the director of the original movie.
Yeah. And he lures them into a police checkpoint, and they escape, and they head back to their lab, and they find the speed. They've also seen the homeless person outside with the pod, which is very interesting scene.
He ends up deliberately breaking the pod. And that would cause a weird mutation later on.
Yeah, it's really strange, because we then get obviously Mr. Spock and the husband turn up again to obviously with Jeff Goldblum, who is now a full-on pod person, and he says to these guys we're going to try to you need to come with us, but they fight off actually the group that's holding them hostage, and they actually kill Jeff Goldblum's character, which is quite shocking, because as they start to make their way down the corridor, they come across Veronica Cartwright, his wife, and she says that she's looking for her husband, and Matt doesn't tell her that he's dead. He basically says to her look, we'll help you find him, and they head outside, and Veronica Cartwright explains if you're completely emotionless, you can get past them. They're not very smart. So they tried to walk outside, but then fucking Elizabeth, she sees one dog-faced person
and has a breakdown.
Oh.
Elizabeth.
Such a great sequence. Is that a dog with a mask on?
Well, yeah. But it's the fact that they had the slit of the mouth so the dog tongue could come out of it, which is the weirdest part of it, really.
So the pod person made a dog which took on the traits of the human face.
because the pod was broken, it kind of malfunctioned. It's the genetics. I don't know how it works, but yeah.
Yeah, like is the human in there as well, or is there?
I guess so.
Or is there a human pod person walking around with a dog face?
Maybe.
Like, I know I'm just adding things onto the movie.
It's the whole Mars Attacks thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there was one really like pivotal scene there, really, with Leonard Nimoy, and he's the one who basically delivers some exposition as to what the aliens are really all about.
Yes.
And we find out that they are a hive mind, essentially. And he explains that being a part of their society, this pod person society, there is no pain, there is no grief, there is no love, there is no hate. It strips all of those things away so that we can all work as one for the planet. But, humans were like, no, fuck that. We want our choice.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we want our choice to fuck things up.
Because you are essentially not you anymore.
Exactly. That is the existential nightmare.
You are dead. The pod person is now
just taken over.
To you.
It has your memories, but it's not you.
Well, that's it. It's the idea that these things obviously they waste all the resources on the planet, and then they'll just send their spores back into space again.
From the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. So even these pod people,
they're no better.
They will die at some point, but to them, they don't feel anything for that. There's no emotion to it.
Yeah.
But weirdly enough, there is emotion when they actually go into that alert mode. Because as soon as Elizabeth sees the dog, she gets freaked out again. The two of them try to escape, and everybody starts screaming and pointing at them and freaking out. And they come across the distribution plant, don't they?
That's right.
They hide in the back of a truck and escape, and then they come across this whole factory, which... much like in the original movie, and much like in the 1993 Army movie, once everybody gets taken over, they're literally just creating pods and sending them off to ships.
Yeah, you see them being loaded on the cargo containers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the fact that as we're following Matt earlier in the film, calling governors, calling senators, calling anyone he can get in contact with to tell them what's going on, them going, this is ludicrous, you're going to cause a panic, even if what you're saying could possibly be real, it's not happening. Yeah. And it's either because all those people have already been taken over by pods,
or they just don't believe it.
So there was no way of getting the authorities. I mean, it's not like when they had the internet, there was no YouTube, they couldn't have filmed it and sent it to people going, look, this shit's real.
This shit's real.
And so the fact that the planes, you can't fly out, you can't drive out, you can't sail out, there is no escape from this city.
Yeah.
And you feel that sense of dread once the entire town or city seems to be chasing you.
Yeah. I started to feel that, especially towards this ending of the movie, because obviously I knew how the movie ended anyway many times, but it was the fact that this time I paid close attention to the sound in the background, the way the city changed, the way the people changed, the way things just by the end of this moment where they're at this factory, it's literally just these two people now. I mean, Veronica Cartwright's out there just freaking out. But he's just like, look, we have to do as much damage as we can. And part of me just kind of feels like, what's the point? Like, you are literally going to be like a pin drop. And he leaves Elizabeth out in the reeds and he's just like, look, stay here. And she's really tired. So I wonder, did somebody bring a pod to her? Was there one already out there? Because when he returns in a minute, she's already changed. But he goes into this factory and he smashes everything up.
He grabs that axe, doesn't he? The moment he grabs the axe, the alarm goes off.
Shit don't work like that. Axes are not alarmed. Somebody's made this factory going, we're going to put this axe here, and just in case a human turns up and tries to use it against us, we're going to alarm it.
You're right. Well, maybe they do things differently in San Francisco in the 70s. But yeah, the moment he grabs that axe, the alarm goes off, everyone's aware of him, and he just starts cutting down all the lights. Which fall into the pods, causing electrical sparks, fires and explosions.
Yeah, it looks great, but if there's 5 more fucking factories, behind you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing is we know, because it being the 70s, we don't have the internet again.
Yeah.
We don't know whether these spores landed over the entire planet or if they just landed in San Francisco. We don't really know. I kind of think they landed globally anyway.
Well, yeah.
But I guess they still need to ship them here, there, and everywhere still.
I go with the idea that obviously the black and white version happened, the guy wasn't stopped and the pods have been distributed, but still more spores are coming down over the time. He returns to Elizabeth and she kind of breaks down in front of him, doesn't he? He's hugging her and all of her nutrients and all of her life force or whatever has kind of been drained out of her, and we literally just watch this husk just kind of happen in on himself, and it's just enough to break Donald Sutherland's mind. You've slowly just watched more and more wear down as the movie's gone down to this point now where he sees Elizabeth. He does love Elizabeth, but that's not Elizabeth. You know, and she explains to him, "Come with us," you know, and he's like, "No, fuck you, bitch." And he tries to escape, and she's freakingly fucking rushing after him naked, fucking screaming at him. And it cuts to the next day, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we see I guess, life after humanity, after humans have been wiped out.
Yeah.
We see everyone doing their normal daily jobs, but nobody's talking to each other.
No.
Nobody's really energized, people are just in their familiar
You're just-
like zombies. You know, they've just
yeah.
gone there because they know this
You
place.
just know it. And
But we do catch up with Matthew, who's also in his office. And we're just like, maybe he's Shaun of the Deading it, you know? He's just pretending to be one of them, like he was taught earlier.
It does kind of come across like that, partially.
Yeah, and you know, he gets in the line of people as they're walking through the corridors.
Yeah.
Outside, and
he even stops and sees Elizabeth, doesn't he? And kind of has this look at her. And I thought to myself, like, why is he doing that? Is he still living the memories of what?
Well, he sees them off in the elevator.
Yeah.
He ends up outside, and that is where Nancy comes up to him like, "Matthew, you're alive, you're okay." And that ending, like,
Yeah.
now, bless like Nancy Cartwright, because the director would do the same trick to her a year later with Alien, and just go, "Let's not tell the actors what's going to happen."
Yeah, I thought that
and
was
get a
good,
real
yeah.
authentic reaction. So yeah, Nancy Cartwright had no idea what the ending of the film was. All she knew was he had to be here, call out his name, and go up to him. And so her first reaction of the point and the thing was the real horrified reaction is what's in the film. And it's, I mean, it definitely helps. It does break down into an over-the-top kind of reaction.
No,
but it's
like,
still warranted.
Is it? Because, like, I like to think of where she's been. She's escaped that night, and she's tried to hide among people. Like,
stayed awake all night
do
as
pod
well.
people still eat? Like, we didn't really see any of them eat or drink or do anything. Do these plants need sustenance like that? Are they still plants? I mean, we saw blood, but are they just plant people now? So she can't just walk into a shop and pick up food and feed herself in front of people, because everyone will be like, "Ah!" You know, she has to. So she's been hiding. Like, we say this is the next day. We don't know if it's actually next day. It could have been like a week. She could have been hiding.
Yeah, absolutely.
So me watching her breakdown here, and the way the movie just ends, no music. It's so weird to not have any music at the end of a film.
Well, and that was because the guy that they got to record the music for the film, Danny Zitlin, the composer, is an American jazz pianist, and this is the only film score he's ever done.
Right.
And he said that it took a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
he never felt like he could do something like that again, but he never was told to record music for the end. So, but I guess having that chilling silence over the end is just perfect, really,
it does
considering
really work.
how dire the ending is for all of us. If
Yeah.
it, you know. Well, Iain, what were your favourite or memorable scenes from the film?
Oh, I've got a few. Man, I really loved the opening sequence. I was really surprised. Maybe I'd just forgotten that, like, the film just really just tells you right off the offset, like, they're here. And the way you just watch them come down and they take over the plant, and then obviously you've got Robert Duvall on the swing, and everything just kind of sets off all of these things in motion. I love anything involving the garbage trucks. Anytime you see a garbage truck in the background, or you hear the audio while somebody's talking, you just know that that's like maybe another 100 odd people, 200 odd people that have just been, you know. I love the sequence with the pod person getting his head smashed in. Like, I totally forgotten how gory it was, you know. And it's like really the only blood you see in the movie. Which,
I mean, the other person has a nosebleed.
that's about it, but it's just enough to kind of it's really kind of visceral and violent compared to, and it shocks you, which is weird because I'm watching this terrifying movie of these people being turned into pods. But the movie's kind of been so subtly easing me in that seeing this blood, I'm almost as shocked, like ah! Like you said, I loved Mr. Spock's explanation of why you should join them and become pod people. It's kind of welcoming, kind of warming, but you have to remind yourself that you are not you anymore. You are dead, and it is it. And he it's just trying to work out what his character is, because he's emotional. He's kind of lulling you in to accept it. So he's like the head pod person, like he's the smartest pod person to kind of lure all the humans in. I don't know. It's too much to think about at the end of the day. I love the absolute ending. I think I love that from the moment maybe the four of them start to be chased by the mob all the way through to the escape, trying to stay awake, and then the changing of Elizabeth at the end. I mean, boobs are awesome. And yeah, like I said, Matthew just kind of put his finger up at Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you as well. That the beginning of the film really sets up everything really, really well. I would say I think the first act of this film is for me the strongest part. The way that everything is still just off kilter, just enough for you to notice things. But yeah, I really enjoyed the opening sequence. There was a scene as well that I really liked between Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams when the two characters are sort of out in the woods or out somewhere eating Chinese food.
Right, yeah.
And he's just like, I think you're crazy. Do the eye thing to prove to me you're not crazy.
Yeah.
And she does this cutest little thing.
Weird.
It's
fucking,
weird.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know what, and I was like, oh, but these two are not a couple?
No.
But of course there's, but obviously she's married.
History.
But then as the film goes on, their relationship blossoms. They do love each other. They confess their love. And that is why the sequence when she disintegrates in his arms is absolutely heartbreaking, and also one of my most memorable scenes, because you do feel bad. Like there was some hope at some point in this film that maybe they could figure things out, and no, just crumbling dust.
Yeah.
I loved Kevin McCarthy's cameo appearance. They're already here.
Yeah, I love that
You're
too.
next. You're next. I love that cameo appearance. That was great. Great moment in the film. I loved Donald Sutherland hiding in the closet.
Yes.
The shot of him just stepping forward in that
amazing.
light. That was great. I love the dog-human hybrid, because that's just so like, what other monstrosities have been birthed by this alien invasion that we've not yet seen?
Yeah.
Like we said, the opening of the film, the developing paranoia stages, like when we see the cleaner just polishing the floor, just stood there. The shot of the bus, the paranoia, the camera just starts spinning around in the city square. I was like, yeah, those moments were great. And yeah, you've already said it. That ending, like, that is one of the most impactful, memorable endings, I think, in cinema. It's definitely right up there.
Yeah.
Well, Iain, do you recommend this version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yes, I think I'll always recommend all versions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies. Like, obviously, The Thing kind of trumps it personally, but it's this version. It's just so good. It just you just can't beat this director's use of the camera, use of the audio. Like, he has the actors just so natural. They're not like superstars, they're not trying to overham their characters. They're just so natural, and so you're lulled into thinking that by the end of this movie everything's going to be okay. It's not. It really isn't. And the ending is just such a punch in the face that you're left with this feeling at the end like what you've just watched was really bad, but it was so good that you just want to go back and watch it again and again and again and again.
Hell yeah, this is a easy recommendation. It's a must-watch sci-fi horror masterclass in paranoia and suspense. It's one of the best alien invasion films ever made. It's a refreshing remake that really delivers on what the creative team set out to achieve, that's still incredibly effective today. The casting was terrific, a great ensemble, brilliant performances that give these characters humanity, the thing the aliens aim to strip away. You really care for this friendship circle, their love for each other, which really matters as they face this horrifying and nightmarish premise. The cinematography and lighting is fantastic. Eerie, lingering shots, moody half-light, shadows, and frenetic handheld camera work really developing the atmosphere of paranoia and dread. The editing is seamless, the effects minimal, and shocking, and the soundtrack works within the film to create that brooding, growing alien menace that crescendos into the chase scenes and the climax. The film has a great pace, some awesome existential body horror, and an ending that can never be forgotten. It's iconic, and this is a classic. It's a must-watch. But for now, sleep, sleep, and be born into a world without fear and pain. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.